It happened in the middle of the noise. Christmas music hummed from the speakers. The smell of cinnamon drifted through the living room. And laughter spilled from the kitchen where my mother was holding court like she owned the place. I was carrying a plate of cookies toward the table when Lily's small hand wrapped around mine. "Mom?" she whispered. I leaned down. "What is it, sweetheart?" Her voice was barely there, but the words hit me like ice water. "I'm scared of Grandma." I froze, my eyes darting to the kitchen doorway. Margaret Carter, my mother, was smiling at nothing in particular, as if she'd just heard the punchline of a joke no one told. Her back was to me, shoulders perfectly straight, movements measured. I almost brushed it off, almost, but then I saw what was in her hand. From across the kitchen, it looked harmless. A jar, the same pale blue label I'd bought 100 times before. The same brand, same shape, the safe, nut-free spread Lily could eat without worry. Except, the lid was wrong. I felt the shift in my stomach before my mind caught up. I took a slow step forward, careful not to draw attention. Another, the light from the window caught the label just enough for me to see the truth. Same font, same design, but not the same product. Tree nuts. The words were printed in small, unmistakable letters on the back. The kind of warning that doesn't leave room for doubt. I watched her dip the knife into the jar, the thick brown spread glistening as she smoothed it onto a sugar cookie. And then, deliberate, precise, she set the cookie on a pink plate. Lily's pink plate. My heart slammed against my ribs. I had never bought the regular version. There was no reason for it to be here, no way for it to end up in my kitchen without someone bringing it. My mother knew that. Everyone in my life knew that. I turned to Lily. "Stay right here." In 3 strides, I was at my purse. My fingers reached automatically for the side pocket, the one place I always kept her EpiPen. It wasn't there. I dug deeper, unzipping every compartment, panic rising in my throat. Nothing. "Mom," Lily said behind me, her voice steady in a way that made my skin crawl. "Grandma took it." I spun around. "What?" "I saw her." "She took it from your bag and put it in hers." I swallowed hard, my mind splintering into possibilities. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a mix-up. Somewhere down the hall, my mother's voice floated toward us, light and cheerful, as if she wasn't holding the one thing in this house that could kill my daughter. I bent down to Lily's level. "Come with me." She didn't hesitate. We walked quickly toward my bedroom, my pulse pounding in my ears. I shut the door, turned the lock, and crossed to the dresser. The backup EpiPen was there, thank God. I gripped it like it was the only solid thing in the room. My phone felt heavy in my hand as I dialed. My voice was calm, too calm, when I told the dispatcher, "My daughter has a life-threatening nut allergy." Someone in my home brought a nut product and removed her EpiPen from my bag. I have a backup, but I believe this was done intentionally. The operator's voice was even reassuring. "We'll send someone immediately." From the other side of the door, the sounds of clinking glasses and small talk carried on, oblivious.
10 minutes.
That's how long they said it would take for the police to arrive. I sat on the bed beside Lily, clutching the EpiPen, and tried to keep my breathing even. But my mind was already racing ahead. What if I was already too late? 10 minutes, they'd said. I counted them in my head while I sat on the edge of the bed with Lily tucked against my side and the backup EpiPen warming in my palm. I could still see the pink plate in my mind, the glossy smear on the cookie, the way my mother's shoulders didn't move when she hummed off key. If I closed my eyes, I heard Lily's whisper again. "I'm scared of Grandma." That sentence was a hinge. It swung the whole day open, footsteps on the porch, a firm rap at the door. My body moved before my thoughts did. I kissed Lily's hair. "Stay here, I'll be 2 minutes." "Don't leave the pen," she breathed. "I won't." I unlocked the bedroom door, stepped into the hallway, and eased it shut behind me so the latch wouldn't echo. The living room glowed with Christmas lights and false comfort. Ryan stood near the mantel, swirling a drink he didn't need, pretending to be a gentleman. Claire gave me a quick, questioning look from the dining room. I lifted a hand. Later. I opened the front door to 2 officers in winter coats, faces calm, eyes alert. The woman's gaze went straight to mine and stayed there in a way that steadied me. "Ma'am," she said, We got your call. Is everyone safe right now? My daughter's in my room with me. She's stable. I have her backup EpiPen. And the person who brought the product? In the kitchen, my mother. My voice didn't shake. She also removed my daughter's EpiPen from my purse. Something flickered in the officer's eyes. Not surprise, exactly. Familiarity. She nodded once. All right. Would you be comfortable keeping your daughter in the room while we speak with your guests? Yes. May we look in the kitchen and your mother's personal belongings? Yes, I said. Please. They stepped inside. The warmth swallowed them. Ryan straightened as if this were a work crisis he could manage with tone alone. Officers, he said smoothly, can I help direct you? We'll speak with everyone, the male officer replied, polite but unmoved. I went back to the bedroom, cracked the door a finger's width, and listened. The officers' voices were low and measured. My mother's floated above them like a ribbon, bright, weightless, performative. Oh, is something wrong? Did someone have an allergy scare? A practiced laugh. My daughter can be dramatic. Claire appeared at the edge of my sight line, folding napkins that didn't need folding. She caught my eye. You okay? She mouthed. I lifted the pen. Back up. I mouthed back. Her jaw set. She drifted toward the kitchen like she had a purpose there, like she always belonged next to me when the floor started tilting. Miss Carter, the woman officer's voice carried. We'll need to see the jar you used. The jar? My mother echoed as if it were a foreign word. Cabinets opened. A drawer slid. Someone set something down on the counter. Thank you, the officer said. A pause. Paper rustled. Can you turn it around, please? My mother's tone brightened. It's the one Hannah asked for, the nut-free one. I'm not careless, Ryan chimed in with rehearsed concern. If there's any confusion, I always keep an EpiPen in the car. Claire's voice cut gently. Lily's EpiPen is kept in her mother's purse. We all know that. Silence, brief and sharp. The male officer spoke next. All business. Ma'am, do you consent to us looking through your handbag? My handbag? Absolutely not. This is harassment. On Christmas. The woman officer unruffled. Then we'll secure the scene and request a warrant. Or, if you prefer to resolve this quickly. A huff. The sound of leather sliding across a counter. Fine, if it ends this nonsense. Behind me, Lily whispered through the door. Mom? I'm here, I answered softly. You're safe.
Is Grandma mad?
I stared at the doorknob, at my hand white-knuckled around the pen. Grandma is being talked to, I said, choosing each word like it might detonate. Drawers again. A zipper, the faint click of plastic against plastic. My heart thudded once, twice, a drum underwater. The house held its breath. I let my mind touch memories it usually avoided, my mother's favorite order. Smile, don't make it worse. The way she praised my brother for trying while handing me the mop. The time she told me I was overreacting when I found lipstick on Ryan's collar. Each scene stacked neatly on the next until the shape of a pattern became impossible to deny. This wasn't a woman who made mistakes. This was a woman who made narratives. Emma? Claire's whisper came from the hallway, gentle, near the door. Do you need me? Stay with them, I whispered back. Please stay where you are. Footsteps approached. 2 sets. The hallway light cut a thin line under my door. The officers stopped outside my room. I could feel their presence before they knocked. I slid my palm over Lily's hair and stood, my knees untrustworthy. A soft, steady tap. Ms. Carter, the woman officer said. May we speak with you for a moment? I opened the door just enough to step into the hall and keep Lily's view blocked. The officer's expression gave away nothing. Professional, composed, hard to read. In her hand she held something small, capped, familiar. Before we proceed, she said evenly, I need you to confirm whether this belongs to your daughter. It was Lily's EpiPen. The bright yellow cap, the white barrel, the worn sticker where her name had started to fade. I didn't need to touch it to know. Every scuff mark was a scar from the times it had been moved in and out of my bag. Yes, I said, my voice lower than I expected. That's hers. It was in my purse this morning. The woman officer nodded, holding my gaze. We found it in your mother's handbag. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. My mother's laughter floated faintly from the kitchen, sharp, offended, perfectly pitched for an audience. "And the jar?" I asked. The officer's tone didn't change. "Not nut-free. Contains tree nuts. It's clearly labeled." It's not the same jar she brought in earlier. That landed like a fist under my ribs. I didn't need to be told twice what that meant. This wasn't about negligence. She asked if I wanted to stay in the bedroom while they spoke to my mother again. I nodded. Lily was still curled on the bed, tracing the pattern on the blanket with one finger. I sat beside her, holding the EpiPen like a fragile weapon, listening to the murmurs from the other side of the door. The walls felt thinner than they were. "This is absolutely ridiculous." My mother's voice rose, carrying down the hall. "She's being dramatic as always. She loves to make a scene. Dramatic. Always the word she reached for when she wanted people to doubt me. When I was 14 and told her Daniel shoved me into the wall. Dramatic. When I found lipstick that wasn't mine on Ryan's shirt. Dramatic. It was the neatest way to dismiss a truth, shrink it into theater. The male officer's voice was quieter, harder to make out, but I caught enough to know they were asking her direct questions. Then her tone shifted. Defensive. Brittle. "You can't just rifle through my things because she's having a tantrum." Tantrum. Another word meant to make my reality look like a child's outburst. I glanced at Lily. "How are you feeling?" She shrugged, eyes on her fingers. "I'm okay. But why would Grandma do that?" The question was a blade I couldn't answer without cutting something open. "I don't know yet," I said softly. "But we're going to find out." The knock came again, shorter, more deliberate. The female officer stepped inside, her expression unreadable but her voice steady. "We've secured the jar and the EpiPen. I'd like to take a statement from you now or later, whichever you prefer." "Now," I said. I didn't want time to dull the edges of what I'd just seen. She pulled a small notebook from her coat pocket. "Start from when you first noticed the jar." As I spoke, the details sharpened. The wrong lid, the label, the deliberate way she'd set that cookie on Lily's plate. I realized I could still smell it, faint, but present. The scent that had once meant comfort, but now pressed against my throat like a warning. When I finished, the officer closed the notebook with a quiet snap. "We'll continue speaking with your mother. Please remain here with your daughter until we let you know." She stepped out, leaving the door cracked just enough for me to hear the sound of my mother's indignation spilling into the air again. It was almost rehearsed. And that's when it struck me. She wasn't just defending herself. She was performing for Ryan, for Daniel. For anyone who might be listening and willing to take her side. The realization didn't settle. It tightened. Because if this was a performance, then the real script, the one they'd been writing, was still hidden somewhere. I just didn't know yet how deep it went. I stayed on the bed with Lily while the murmur of voices in the kitchen rose and fell, like waves hitting against the same stubborn rock. Every now and then my mother's voice would spike, a sharp, defensive note, and then smooth itself out again into something softer, more composed. That was her specialty, anger disguised as poise. While the officers worked, my mind drifted backward, unspooling years of moments that now looked different in the light of tonight. I met Ryan when I was 26. He had that deliberate charm, the kind that made you feel seen, chosen, almost lucky. Everyone liked him, but my mother adored him. She'd lean across dinner tables and tell me how a man like that knows how to take care of things, as though my own care for my life wasn't enough. When we married and Lily was born, my mother's admiration for him only grew. It didn't fade when he offered her a job at his company, something administrative, but she wore it like a crown. She loved the email signature, the steady paycheck, the excuse to talk about her important work. It made her feel necessary in a way she'd never felt on her own. Then came the day I found out Ryan was cheating. I expected shock, maybe even outrage from her. Instead, she sighed like I'd told her the coffee pot was broken. "So he cheated," she said. "It happens. You have a child. You should stay." I remember standing there, waiting for her to add, "But it's wrong, or I'm here for you." She didn't, and when I told her I wouldn't stay in a marriage that was already broken, she didn't speak to me for 3 days. Ryan didn't fire her. Of course he didn't. He promoted her. During the custody battle, I thought maybe she'd at least try to be neutral. But no, she told me flat out that Ryan offered stability and that I was too reactive. Hearing your own mother suggest your child might be better off with your ex is something you can't unhear. So when she insisted I invite him for Christmas this year for Lily's sake, I shouldn't have been surprised. I told her no more than once. She told me it wasn't about me, it's about family. The pressure was constant, the guilt sharper than it should have been. I gave in, I told myself I could get through one day. Now here I was, that single day unraveling into something I couldn't have imagined. Through the thin crack of the bedroom door, I caught a glimpse of Ryan leaning against the counter while my mother spoke to the officers.
He didn't look rattled. If anything, he looked entertained.
The female officer's voice cut through the low hum. Miss Carter, we need you to step into the dining room for a moment. I heard my mother's heels click against the tile. A pause. Then the faint sound of a chair scraping across the floor. My pulse picked up. Because if they were moving her out of the kitchen, it meant something else was about to happen in there. Something they didn't want her near. And I wasn't sure yet if I wanted to know what they were about to find. The officers kept my mother in the dining room. From my place in the hallway, I could see her sitting upright, arms folded, chin tilted just enough to look both insulted and in control. Ryan stood near her, one hand resting casually on the back of her chair, like they were allies in the same boardroom. I stayed by the doorway to my bedroom, the EpiPen still in my grip, as the female officer walked back into the kitchen. Claire slipped in behind her, pretending to clear glasses but really planting herself between Ryan and the officer's work. I caught snippets. The jar was sealed when my mother arrived, but this one wasn't. The label didn't match the earlier one. The male officer photographed it, turning it slowly under the light. I could smell the faint, sweet trace of peanuts from where I stood. It made my throat tighten. And yet, even as the truth stacked up, a dangerous thought crept in. Maybe I'm overreacting. I hated that voice, the one my mother had trained into me over decades. Don't cause a scene. Don't make it worse. Smile. The female officer came to me quietly. We'll be transporting the jar as evidence. This doesn't appear accidental. Her words settled heavy in my chest. I knew it wasn't. She nodded once, then glanced toward the dining room. We're going to ask her to come down to the station for a formal statement. That's when Ryan spoke up, his voice smooth and almost amused. I think this has been blown out of proportion. I had an EpiPen ready in my car. Nothing would have happened. Claire turned, her voice flat. Nothing yet. I didn't trust myself to speak. The officers began their quiet choreography, one guiding my mother toward the door, the other keeping Ryan from following. Margaret's voice rose, indignant. You can't be serious. You're taking me in over a cookie? Ma'am, you're not under arrest, the male officer said. We just need to speak with you in a formal setting. Her heels clicked across the tile, her coat rustled, and then the door shut behind them. The sound was softer than I expected, almost anticlimactic. Claire crossed the room and leaned on the doorframe beside me. Quiet evening, huh? I laughed once, a sharp, brittle sound. I knew she didn't like me. I didn't know she'd try to... The word lodged in my throat. Claire didn't flinch. She just put a hand over mine, the one clutching the pen. From somewhere deep inside me, a question formed, one that felt more dangerous than anything that had happened so far. Because what if my mother hadn't acted alone? The next morning, the phone rang before the sun had fully pushed through the blinds. An unknown number, but I knew. I didn't even need to check. The weight in my stomach told me who it was. Hello, I said, my voice still rough from sleep. No greeting, no hesitation. How could you do this to me? My mother's tone was sharp, cold. You called the police on your own mother, on Christmas. Over dessert. I sat up slowly, careful not to wake Lily beside me. Good morning to you too. Don't be flippant, Emma. You humiliated me. Do you even understand what you've done? This could ruin me. I could lose my job. Do you care about that at all? Do you care what this does to the family? Mom, you brought a peanut product into my house. You put it on Lily's plate. You took her EpiPen? Oh, for God's sake, she snapped. You really think I would put her in danger? She wasn't going to eat it, not really. The words snagged in my brain. What do you mean, not really? Her voice lowered, almost conspiratorial. Ryan had an EpiPen. He was going to step in the second anything happened. She would have been fine. My mouth went dry. You planned that? You don't understand what it's like being a single mother, she said, sliding into that disappointed tone I knew too well. I just wanted to help you. I wanted people to see how much pressure you're under. I gripped the phone tighter. So you staged a medical emergency. It wouldn't have gone that far, she snapped. Ryan was ready. All I wanted was for people to see that maybe you're not managing, and you're not. You're hanging on by a thread. I stared at the wall, every nerve ending humming. You think that helps me? I think you need help, she said simply. And if you won't ask for it, someone has to show people the truth. I didn't answer. My thoughts were moving too fast. Then she added, almost casually, it was Ryan's idea. I just followed through. The silence after that felt like an explosion with no sound. She must have realized what she'd said because she hung up. I lowered the phone slowly, as if it might burn me. Claire, already in the kitchen, looked over the rim of her coffee mug. Your mom's a sociopath, she said flatly. Apparently in collaboration with your ex-husband. A fun twist, I thought, but the words wouldn't come out. Because if they'd worked together this time, what else had they done that I hadn't seen? 2 days later, my lawyer called. You might want to sit down for this, she said. I was already sitting at the kitchen table, Lily's crayons scattered across the surface. Should I be scared or relieved? Both, she replied. We've received discovery materials from the custody proceedings. Emails, screenshots, message logs. Between your mother and Ryan, I pressed the phone tighter to my ear. Go on, it's not subtle, she said. They discussed how to highlight your instability, their word, and create situations to show Lily would be better off in a more structured environment. My hand curled into a fist. They joked about you freaking out on cue. They referenced the jar and the EpiPen. Ryan even confirmed in one message that he would have one ready to intervene safely. I stared at the wall, my pulse thudding in my ears. And, my lawyer continued, there's a chain where your mother asks about a promotion. Ryan replies already done, followed by, when can we bring Daniel in for onboarding? Daniel, my brother. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was how casual it all was. Like they were discussing seating arrangements for a dinner party. I leaned back, the chair creaking under my weight. So they didn't want her to die, I said slowly. No, she confirmed. They just wanted it to look like you couldn't keep her safe. The words felt colder than if she'd told me they wanted to harm Lily outright. Because this wasn't about rage or impulse, it was calculation. They'd weighed the risks and decided Lily's safety was worth gambling if it got them what they wanted. How does someone do that? I murmured, mostly to myself. My lawyer's voice softened. We're going to use every piece of this, in family court, in any related charges. And Emma, you're not overreacting, you never were. I hung up and found Claire leaning against the doorway, arms crossed, eyes steady on me. They put it in writing, I said. She didn't even blink. Then you've already won more than you think. But the question burned at the back of my mind. Winning in court was one thing. Living with the fact that my mother and my ex-husband had worked together to dismantle my life. That was something I wasn't sure I'd ever win. 6 months later, the air in my house felt different, lighter, quieter, but it wasn't because I'd forgotten. It was because the noise was finally gone. Margaret accepted a plea bargain, child endangerment, tampering with medical supplies. 2 years probation, mandatory counseling, and a court order, no unsupervised visits with Lily for 5 years. Fine by me. I didn't attend the hearing. I didn't need to see her twist her face into indignation one more time. Ryan's turn came next. Conspiracy to endanger a child, probation, his name went public, his business crumbled in weeks. Clients vanished without comment, partners resigned. He issued a sterile press release about stepping back to prioritize family, but everyone knew. Supervised visitation only. Parenting classes, therapy, psychological evaluation. Even he knew there was no real path to more custody now. Daniel never got the job Ryan promised. The day after my mother's arrest, Ryan cut him off entirely. I didn't bother reaching out. The betrayal had its own gravity, and I wasn't stepping back into its orbit. The judge didn't need convincing. I was granted full legal and physical custody. Lily's life was back under my roof on my terms without anyone plotting from the shadows. But the habits remained. I still checked my purse twice before leaving the house. I still scanned every dessert table like I was defusing a bomb made of frosting. Lily didn't complain. She'd seen too much to question it. She was healing, though. Sleeping through the night. Drawing again. Talking more in therapy. She hadn't asked for her father once. Claire never let me slip into self-pity. She brought wine, laughter, and the kind of friendship that doesn't flinch. She didn't treat me like I was fragile glass. She treated me like I'd survived a fire and could still stand. Some nights, after Lily was asleep, I'd sit at the kitchen table and let my mind run to the what-ifs. If I hadn't walked into the kitchen right then, if Lily hadn't said anything, if I'd ignored the wrong lid, but then I remembered, I didn't ignore it. I saw it. I believed myself. I acted. At first, I thought the worst betrayal was losing my marriage. Then I thought it was trusting my mother. But the true worst thing would have been doubting myself. And that, after everything, is the one thing I'll never do again. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, please like, share, and feel free to tell us your own story in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Help us grow as a storytelling community and be part of this journey with us. Can I count on you? Thank you so much.